Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to access population pyramids using CIA World Factbook. And this is going to help you to find out a whole lot of information about different countries and what politicians might need to know in order to make policies to support their people and to preserve the environment and to make sure that people are fed and they don't have extreme poverty in their country. Okay, so we're going to start. We're on the link that I gave you. So this is CIA, the World Factbook. This is obviously this is a database of all the information that our country has on every place in the world, pretty much. So what we're going to do is go over here to where it says, please select a country to view. We're going to select the drop down and we're going to choose the country that we want to look at first. And the first country that I would like us to examine is the country of Chad. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and then I'm going to select, I want specifically demographic information. So I'm going to select people and society. And it's going to give me all kinds of information about the population. It's going to give me the total population, um, national, ethnic groups, languages. We're not necessarily going to look at those cultural statistics right now. We just want to know about population. So we're looking at age structures. And just so you know, you can go back and read this demographic profile and it'll give you some clues. So like if you see somewhere in there that there's a huge decrease of males versus females, you might find an explanation for that here in the demographic profile. So first we're going to look at the age structures. We see that we start with the youngest population or the youngest cohort of the population, which is 0 to 14. And we think of them as being pre-reproductive for the most part. So in some countries, you'll see that they have a lot of early marriages where they start their families very, very young. But we're talking about age structures in terms of pre-reproductive, reproductive years, and then post-reproductive years. So 0 to 14 are your pre-reproductive years. And then we have basically from 15 to 24, and in this cohort as well, you can see that those are going to be your reproductive years. And then finally, these are your post-reproductive years. And so when we scroll down to where it says dependency ratio, the youth dependency ratio is thinking about the percentage of young people that rely on the older age cohorts to survive. So, in other words, they're not the ones who are working, who are participating in the economy. They're the ones who actually need to be supported. So, that's the dependency ratio there. When we think of the elderly dependency ratio, that's the number of people who are older who rely also on the people who work in order to survive. So when we see a country like Chad, where the elderly dependency ratio is really, really low, but the youth dependency ratio is really, really high, that's going to give us a clue into what we're going to see in our population pyramid. So under age structure, you're going to see where it says population pyramid, and you can click right there. And now we can see it all. It's like a perfect visualization of what we were just talking about. So the youngest age cohort is our biggest. That means there are a lot of births happening. It is a high fertility rate, but we see that it goes down with every single age cohort. And then it's virtually even between the males and the females. Now, when we talk about males and females with regard to population, we're talking about sex. We're not talking about gender identity. So this is purely biological. And the reason why we say males and females is because we're talking about the potential for reproduction to create more people. So we're not talking about gender identity at all. This is just biological. And so the shape of this pyramid, as you can see, is very much like a triangle. And we refer to this as an expansive population pyramid. And that's because you can see this population is rapidly growing. Okay. As it becomes more and more industrialized, the population is going to grow even more. So even though it looks like people are dying off as they become industrialized and move over in the demographic transition model, you're going to see that population boom. And this is going to start to even out, become less of a pyramid and more straight or more round. Okay, so this is a constrictive, or I'm sorry, this is an expansive population pyramid, again, which means the population is growing. Okay, so now I'm going to click off of this. We're going to look at another type. And the country I'm going to select is France. So we're going to see something very, very different from Chad. Okay, so I'm going to pick France. And then I'm going to scroll down to people in society because we're looking at demographic information about the population. And when we get to the age structures here, we see something very, very different. Okay. With Chad, you saw that it had a huge high number. And then your elderly population was way lower. Dependency ratio, you can see there's a lot of old people compared to what you saw with Chad that are now going to be reliant on the working age cohorts. Okay. So now let's take a look at the population pyramid. So we can see there's so much replacement happening here. So if we're looking at one of the oldest age cohorts, okay, around 70 is about where we see the life expectancy happening. Obviously, you're going to see it start to go down beyond that because there is a life expectancy and elderly people will eventually die. But you can see that for the most part, this is a stationary population. In other words, two people replace themselves with two people. And you can see that happening here because everything is, for the most part, pretty straight. It looks a little curvy here and there because different things may have happened in different years with the economy. But for the most part, it's pretty much even and stationary. So this is a stationary population pyramid. So I'm going to click off of this and we're going to go to one more type. We're going to look at one of those semi-periphery countries that's going through rapid development right now. And I'm going to pick Russia. And we're going to go to people in society. Okay, and let's take a look at this population pyramid. This one's really wonky looking, right? But you can see that it's narrowing down. They are having fewer and fewer children. So things are rapidly changing in this country. You can also see a few things that will tell you that something happened in the past in the history of their country because you can see this is the male side, this is the female side. Men in their 80s there's a way lower population than women in their 80s. And when we go back to the demographic information, we can see that there's information about the country having gone through some wars. And we might have to go up to introduction in order to get some of that. But because the men participated in World War II and the women did not, you're going to see that there was a huge number of deaths in that country that were male deaths. So now I'm going to have you guys click on a number of different countries and I'm going to have you respond to some questions that are going to help you to think about population in this way. So have fun with that. This is fun with population pyramids.